in America at least, failing is not a big deal. Like,
say it again. Say it again.
Right. Let's clip that. Let's run it right back.
So this is Anatomy of a Hustler. I'm Jenise.
And I'm Cope.
And today we have actually a dear friend named Adam Yee. And I'm so excited because if you don't know him, if you're not in the food industry, he's a little bit of a celebrity. He's definitely a hustler. And he had the entrepreneurial itch and launched a new company called Sobo Foods. And we're so excited to interview him today and kind of dig deeper in like, one, what convinces you to go from company to company and then finally take the leap into entrepreneurship. So welcome, Adam.
Awesome. So glad to be here in this apartment drinking a beer before noon. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So
It's Friday. Those 5 p.m. rules don't count.
Yeah, right.
At least they don't count here. But
Nope.
I love it.
Vacation mode at all times.
I love it. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah. For those who don't know you, who are you and what do you do?
I'm Adam Yee. I specifically am a food scientist, so I create food products, and I've done this for almost a decade, I'd say. I started in making granola bars, switched to protein bars, and now I'm a plant-based meat quote expert. So, funny enough, in Sacramento, I started a company called Better Meat Co. And that's still thriving. I'm invited to their 5th anniversary party, so they still like me.
Hey.
Yay.
And yeah, I'm going to visit them to deliver them dumplings as well. So very, very supportive ecosystem. And then I also traveled a bit in the U.S., like Austin or Boston, working on a lot of food industry projects. And also around the world, just talking to a lot of cool people. I also have a podcast. I'm also a podcaster, professional Well, is it professional? Yes, because I used to get paid for it. Yeah, that's what it means to be a professional, guys.
That's the metric.
Yep.
Some money was exchanged.
Yes, definitely. And so I have one called My Food Job Rocks. It has over like 280 episodes, just from everywhere around the world, just food industry people from all different walks of life, to really help educate people about the food industry. But it also has helped my career too. That's how I started my businesses. That's how I've met so many awesome people. That's how I've gotten, I feel a bit more perspective about the world that we live in, just through these different points of views and how they got to what they love to do. And so, after I did like this trip around Asia with this podcast, which we just finished our international series, we had this in the background, but we started this plant-based dumpling company called Sobo Foods with my co-founder Eric Wu, who is also a serial entrepreneur. He just left a company called Gainful, which is like a sports nutrition company. And so we're both Asian Americans. We both really like sustainable missions. We believe that food can really help the planet, essentially not destroy itself. And so we decided to make this company as this kind of quirky and cool plant-based Asian brand because we grew up with food that we thought were like really unique, like, some of the pork and chive dumplings. I really liked kimchi when I was a teenager for some reason.
I think kimchi is amazing.
Right?
I love kimchi.
That was when it was all the rage, and now it's getting more and more popular. I love it. And this is kind of the hidden favorite, but the curry dumpling that we have is a potato curry made with like essentially an S&B curry sauce, which those curry blocks that you see in like the supermarkets.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
It's based off of that, and so that's like these are all completely vegan, and we've gotten a lot of great feedback.
Awesome. What does Sobo mean?
So Sobo stands for so there's kind of 2 ways we kind of tackle this. So Sobo is a short name that is really easy to memorize the more you eat it. So it's like, Sobo dumpling. As I eat it, you'll remember Sobo a lot. The other meaning is actually a street that my co-founder Eric, who's the CEO, lived on, called South of Bouchard Street. I think I'm pronouncing that wrong, but whatever. It's in Los Angeles. It's a very diverse street, and so that's kind of what our angle is. We are a company that celebrates diversity in its all shapes and forms, and we do that by food.
I dig that. I love that story. I'm big on branding. Like, I always want to know, like, what's the secret? What did you do? Because details really matter, and I think that's really cool because it kind of solidifies what the brand is really about. And 4 letters, easy to remember. You guys are checking all the boxes.
Yep, got that domain name, man.
That's right. Oh, even better, even better.
Well, it's actually SoboFoods.com.
Okay.
You can't do the 4-letter domain.
Not without a big chunk of change.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So Sobo Foods, does that mean we're going to see other variations or different types of foods in the future?
There's a possibility. Yes, definitely. We don't want to do just dumplings. We have a vision for other types of foods, and we'll see how that goes. First, we want to start small and start rational. So we are going to only launch in the Bay Area and then spread out, Sacramento, LA, and then spread out, and we're going to see how that goes. But we produce everything in-house. Currently we handful dumplings, I do probably around 50% of them, and we do it every week. So it's not the most efficient operation, but we want to take this slower approach because that really matters to us. I think taking things too fast, where you see a lot of like tech companies like blitz scaling and some of the food industry companies have fallen into this trap. It's important to right now to have a different lens into things and take things slow, build more community. I'm hand delivering dumplings to you.
He literally pulled up with a ice chest, and I was like, "Oh, that's where the dumplings are."
Yes,
amazing.
Small and rational. Right? You hit that on the head. I love that, and I think that. God, you said so many things right there that I just want to run off on. But small and rational was the first thing that jumped out to me because I think it's, like you said, it's really easy to get caught up in the idea of scale. And then what really solidified this for me, and we could probably just wrap the pod right after this, is building community. Mm-hmm. And I think that's so overlooked. Like we look at conversion metrics, right? Like how quickly can we get someone to pull their wallet out, right? Mm-hmm. I'm going to keep coming back if I'm working with someone or buying from someone that gives a fuck. And the level of fucks you have to give to show up with a cooler to hand deliver after hand rolling these things is unmatched.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Sobo is such a clear brand. You had like a very clear vision. And for someone who is Asian American, I immediately am enamored with it.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm so excited because there's not a lot of cool Asian brands. Like you go to the Asian store and you're going to get all these like obscure brands from a different country. And so to have something that feels more trendy, if I'm allowed to say it's trendy, and also feels kind of like nostalgic is, I think, a great way to launch a brand, especially in this time.
Thank you. Yeah, I have to give credit to Eric's connections. We have a great graphic designer who has helped us with this and has walked through the process. I think what I'll give you a little deep dive of the process. When we first started kind of designing this brand or designing, the design of it. So we would go to the grocery stores and we would look at the aisle of dumplings, right? And they're all basically what companies do, like Korea, Japan, China, Taiwan. They will put like boatloads of frozen dumplings onto like their containers and ship them over to the US and then lay them down. And they're generally like all kind of light colored. There's like a singular piece of food there with like chopsticks holding it, and it just feels like the same. It feels the same, right? So when we looked at that like area, we're like, okay, well, how can we be different? Like, how can we be? And some of the keywords we used was like, we can be bold, colorful, and really make a statement, which I think is kind of the trend now for a lot of Asian American brands like Fly by Jing or
Omsom.
Yeah, Omsom is very bold as well. So we did, we will say that we have considered taking like some inspiration. I think we have taken some inspiration on this. Some other unique things that we kind of talked about was like their hands, right? So in a lot of dumpling because you don't see a lot of hands anywhere or anything like that. So in my opinion, hands are really important because they it shows the skin color, it shows the technique. We're holding with chopsticks. I think that really makes a statement about like these are humans eating the food.
Mm-hmm. Love that.
Mm-hmm. And I think also when I go to the Asian store and I go like those dumplings, the ones I just remember them because I know what they taste like, but I couldn't tell you the brand. I couldn't tell you how much they normally are. I just buy them because they're familiar. But now consumers can go look at Sobo and be like, the brand that has the bright colors,
exactly.
the branding that appeals to me. And the flavors that actually make sense.
Yes. Yeah. We definitely have unique flavors. Like I don't think anyone's ever heard of a curry dumpling, right? I
think I'm like trying to think.
I don't know. But we also now we can like as the technical person on the team, like I have a playground of working with all these unique and awesome flavors in our facility in San Francisco.
Nice.
Love that. Have you always been interested in food? Was this like a very clear path for you from a young age?
I would say so. Yeah, I think if I were to go really, really back, my grandma inspired me. She would cook a lot, and it was great. And then in middle school, I started watching the Food Network a lot.
Nice.
Food Network.
So I would watch Emeril Lagasse. I think was like my first. Bam, right?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
It's still memorable. So
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, that's iconic.
Yeah, right. And then I started to just dive more into it. So Alton Brown was a big inspiration. I was fortunate to meet him live in college, which was awesome. It was doing like a little tour or something like that. And then in high school, I kind of challenged myself to cook a lot, and I would cook for my parents. They would basically give me $80 a week to go to the grocery store and buy food for them. And I think when I look back at this, like this was a great parenting thing to do. Like,
Parenting tip.
right?
That's
Yeah,
huge. That's huge.
Like it gave you a lot of creative freedom. It allows you to find your passion. It makes you in control of what you're doing, right? Because you have something of monetary value that you're trying to figure out how to, I could just pocket the $80 and go, somewhere else, right?
Hit a drive-through, keep the change.
Exactly, right? So, but no, I really like cooking. I love trying unique ingredients, even though it costs me like a lot, like, rabbit from Ranch 99 or just weird bags of mussels or something like that.
And this is what you were cooking in high school.
Yeah, I was cooking in high school.
Wow.
Oh, incredible.
And that gave me like a lot of confidence to share with my friends. So every Wednesday, they would actually make this Facebook group called Wednesday Lunches with Adam Yee, where I would make food for them. I would just try to make food and give them to like people and then start to like kind of be talked about a little bit.
You're literally describing like how some companies would do product research,
yes,
but as a teenager and you're getting funded by your parents and just kind of starting this community, like that's the blueprint that I would use.
Yeah, so in high school, I won a award called Most Likely to Become a Chef, which was funny. And yeah, I think that was like the biggest thing about my high school experience. I was really into food at that age. And then when I chose college, I was like, oh, I did take a culinary class in community college. I hated it. I just didn't like it. And then
was it the structure of it? Was it just kind of sterile?
It wasn't sterile. I think it was too rush and too. I don't know what it was exactly. And I think as I talked to more chefs just around the area, it was too much of like, basically you have to do a lot of grunt work before even a chance.
So you have to earn your spot at a restaurant.
Yeah, and then like at that point, like you're just creating the same thing over and over again, right? You just have to, right? That's the point of a restaurant is to get to make like 100 dishes of this every day to someone. And for me, it just didn't vibe. I also had decent enough grades to go to like a decent college, so I went to Cal Poly in San Luis Obispo, and I think I just Googled food science pretty much, or I Googled food plus science.
And your whole life was set.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
There it is.
And I found like an article about food science. I was like, oh, I'll give it a shot. And so I got really involved in college with food science. So I donated to my university recently, which was really heartwarming. So somewhere I have a name on a bench somewhere. I don't know.
We have to go
That's
find
awesome.
it.
Yeah. I know. Yeah, we're gonna go hunt this down.
Yeah. I was just talking to someone. They're like. There's someone who visits the university often to do some business there, and she was like saying like, "Oh yeah, I saw your name on your bench." She's like, "Oh, wow, that's cool. That's cool.
That's really cool.
Funny. Oh yeah. It was a lot of money though, but but and I'm also helping with some academic work over there as well. So it's still great to be in touch with them. It's still great to see the professors that used to teach me a lot of stuff. And then. Yeah, so I guess that answers your question. I was essentially obsessed with food, and I feel like I still am obsessed. I still feel like there's this childlike wondering of what still needs to be done in a sense. And so I think for me, I keep on learning every new profession I hear. Even old profession I hear, like there's something of value to get out of this to help kind of push everything forward.
Absolutely. And the way you talk about it, it's food science, but you speak from a place where it's like art for you. Like you exude this passion for it, and it shows that there was real empowerment that you got at such a young age to just be bold and try. So it would make sense that culinary school wasn't the thing for you.
Yeah, sounds a little like you were a little bit rebellious. And so after college, did you go into a food science role? How did you go from college to starting your first company?
Yeah, so I think I rushed I was someone who compared myself to others quite a lot in college. I think that I think that happens all the time. Like people, I feel like once you hit like your 30s, that changes a lot. But that gets into another podcast. but I always had to compare myself to others. So when people started getting jobs in college, like I was like, oh, why don't I have a job? Am I a loser or something like that? So, but I guess I'm not, because I did get a job before I graduated, which was great. But I did feel like I rushed that a little bit. So I got a job in Phoenix, Arizona, making granola bars. They were opening up this brand new granola bar plant. So I packed up my bags, went to Phoenix as a food scientist, or we call it a food processing technologist. And it was a really hard job. Like it's factory work, right? It's you have to be the expert at everything, because most of the people are high school educated, come from kind of unfortunate backgrounds, and have to make a living, right? So you can't. At least the management says like you can't really show that you don't know things. So it was a really good job. I did that for about a year and a half, but it was tough. Waking up at 4 a.m. to essentially shovel like granola into a mixer was not how I envisioned my life. So that was a spark of entrepreneurship. I think it was like, am I going to do this forever? Because at the time of your first job, that's what happens, right? You realize like, oh, I have my first job, I'm getting money, and then like I think 6 months later, you're like, this isn't what I envisioned it. I think this is no matter what job you are, I think this is the case, right? And then you realize like the hard parts do matter a lot, but again, that's something a little bit different. And so I started just exploring a little bit of entrepreneurship. I helped out a small artisan food shop, and he taught me a little bit about just the economics of a small business, so to say. So that was really nice, and eventually I quit that job for a very comfortable corporate job, designing protein bars.
Okay.
Designing bars.
Yeah. I like to say designing, making them. Sounds like. Well, I will say like that factory job taught me a lot about who actually makes our food.
Right.
And I think that's really important to understand. Like, we are in very fortunate positions. There are a lot of people who aren't in fortunate positions who have to do a lot of things to make ends meet, right? And that one is making your food, because like food is really cheap. It just has to be cheap, right?
Right.
Just inherently, it is something that everyone needs to be nourished and stuff like that. So it allowed me to empathize with the workers, which really helped me when it came to developing products. Just in my career, it just helped me understand like, okay, these guys are going to be making your food. So how do I make this simplified? Like how do I not have so many ingredients? How do I not make a process that involves a lot of sharp blades, right?
Right.
Working on that, which some do. So, did the designing a protein bar bit at a multi-level marketing company called Isogenics. Good news is they treat their employees who like actually work in the company very, very, very well. And I learned a lot from there. I had a mentor. I had a great, just a great. He was a doomsday prepper, which was really funny. But he just had this very eccentric mind, and he taught me a lot about just how to especially hustle in corporate, how to manage a lot of resources and how to push your ideas. Very tactical guy when it came to managing corporate, essentially warfare, he would say.
It's real, yeah.
He's a really fascinating guy. I think he went off the deep end in a sense, but anyways,
moving on.
Moving on to that.
If he's listening, he says that from a very grateful place.
Of course, I am very grateful for him. I think he did get kicked off of LinkedIn. Now that I think about it. But at that time, though, it was a decent, comfortable place in my life, and I started My Food Job Rocks, which is the podcast that essentially supercharged my career. So there was a gap about people saying like,
what year was this? Just to give people some context.
So 7 years ago, I think. So what's 7? That's like
2016.
Yeah.
So before like the massive rise of podcasts,
I mean, everyone always says I'm too late, and I did feel like I was late at that point.
Wild.
It was I guess we call it the Pat Flynn era,
Mm-hmm.
and near the John Lee Dumas era, and so like podcasting, right? Like, do people even know those names anymore? I don't think so.
I know Pat Flynn.
Oh yeah, but I think he started like something called Smart Passive Podcast. I got really into that, and then just kept on digesting podcasts. Now I'm on the Scott Galloway era, but anyways. Where was I going with this?
2016.
2016, you started your pod.
Yep, and I just interviewed my friends first. I actually went to California, did like 4 episodes. one who works at a chocolate factory, one who worked at Safeway, and one who like was kind of a consultant, and then just started building that. I just had so much fun doing it week after week that I just kept on rolling episodes. It was really easy to get guests because no one would talk to food scientists. And so I was like, oh, you want to get on? I was like, oh yeah, I guess I've never been on podcast before. I was like, it's okay. And so I just started building this repertoire, just this list of great people who I still talk to. Like now that I think about it, like a good chunk of those people I still talk to. And every week I would record, listen to myself, learn a little bit more, and then share it to people who then they would like kind of enjoy it as well, and then they would share it again, and eventually you just start to snowball this effect about like guests and content and all that. Eventually, where I interviewed my co-founder for Better Meat Co., who's still here, Paul Shapiro, who wrote a book called Clean Meat, and then 3 months later he says, I'm looking for a food scientist to help me on this project. Do you know anyone? I was like, well, I'm a food scientist, I can probably help. And then that allowed me to get out of Phoenix and go to Sacramento, actually. So that was, and then we started Better Meat Co., which was very successful. I would say we raised a good amount of money, like 1.5 million. We scored a deal with a really big chicken manufacturer, and then they have a factory, which I'm going to visit like this afternoon.
Oh, cool!
Right? Shout out to Paul.
Yeah, right. So it's been a really enlightening experience. I did think I did burn out a bit, which is why I kind of left that company. Being a founder is really interesting. It's really tough. Obviously everyone knows this. And it's high risk, right? And, it can be also very lonely. You just have no one to kind of relate to in a sense about what's happening in the world. So I did scrounge for guests who had that feeling as well, which kind of really actually helped me when I was doing the podcast while at Better Meat Co. But yeah, entrepreneurship is a really, really tough beast. I do think, apparently there's a study saying that like even if you failed or left a company, your experience is actually more valuable still. Like people still see that valuable. And it was like even leaving like Better Meat Co., going to a different corporate job, like people knew about like one, my podcast, two, my Better Meat Co. experience. And that actually, you know, if you want to talk about like pay raises, like it really jumped my salary a lot.
Oh, I bet.
Yeah. So it's something that is, I'm trying to wrap my head around it, is like, even if you fail the business, in America at least, failing is not a big deal. Like,
say it again. Say it again.
Right. Let's clip that. Let's run it right back.
Like, I mean, you can look at really extreme examples like Adam Newman from WeWork, which I worked at.
WeWork alumni.
WeWork alumni. Yeah. WeWork. Oh, fun place. It was after they took out all the free booze and replaced it with like sparkling water and kombucha. Which, yeah.
Gross.
Yeah.
Actually, I love booch, but as I'm drinking a Modelo.
I don't like kombucha. Hot take. And then Adam Newman, like he failed WeWork, right? And he's now starting a new like weird mortgage company, right?
Yes.
But the point being is that like in America at least, if you play your cards right, you're nice to people. You're not like defrauding people or you know being just an honest person and failing something. Like generally, like people look at it as a sign of respect.
Oh yeah.
Right. So and they know it's hard. Everyone knows it's hard. And generally, you were never gonna like go out of the streets. You're gonna have the experience.
Right.
It is also something to note that like most entrepreneurs are of decently wealthier backgrounds. Like, I mean, I'm a middle class, I guess. That's all I got. But most people are pretty much, if they fail, they can just like live at home, right? Like sure. I can live at home, right? It kind of sucked, but it's like not a big deal,
right?
That was like the worst case that would happen. But now in hindsight, like, and again, like Better Meat Co. didn't fail. I just left, like,
right?
Yeah.
So to keep that. But I know a lot of entrepreneurs who like failed, and especially in this environment right now where funding is really hard, and people who've raised a lot aren't are kind of feeling this kind of pressure. Failing is understandable, and I think it's just people always think the worst. I think we're just trained like that as animals to like think of like this we're gonna die, which and honestly you're not gonna die like in this environment. We're tied to fear, but in general everything has been kind of patted down in terms of like how we're gonna die.
Yeah.
I was wondering where that was going.
Yeah. I mean that you again hit it so much on the head, because I think that the apprehensiveness to even start, like people won't even give themselves the opportunity to fail because of everything you just said.
Yeah.
And I'm a big fan of just get the fuck out there, do it, fuck up.
Yeah.
Like, because there, like you said, there's a huge amount of respect for showing up and that creating real connection with people, not defrauding people, not being an asshole. All these things will pay off, even if your first venture just goes belly up.
Yeah, that's great. I do want to go more tactical into this. I think what really
Please.
helped me was starting the podcast was a iteration that I could like just launch something, see if it worked. It cost me like what $1,000 I think to start it, and it was just audio like stuff. I edited on a free audio editing platform. Now I switched to Audition, which I really like, and so like. Just trying that out, seeing how it works and sharing things and getting feedback. What's great about podcasts, you get user feedback for like no penalty essentially, unless you're canceled. And so, which I never was. And I don't think I ever will be.
Yeah, I don't know, man. That kombucha,
Don't say never, say never.
that kombucha might be the hot take
know,
that,
right?
that puts things off.
Yeah.
Fermented
Just too
food
sour
shuns
for
you.
me. So I think that's one thing. Another one is having an accountability partner. So that's essentially a co-founder. So I'm a big fan of co-founders, though there is some merit of doing things by yourself. I think especially when you raise a lot of money, it's really important because you have like a skill set cover. You have like you just have so many things that help you with podcast or with co-founding as a team, as a partnership, that it makes things, it's like a 1 + 1 = 3 approach to how you tackle a problem. So those essentially mitigate risk is what I'm trying to get at.
Sure.
So can I ask, like, what do you look for in a co-founder?
Anyone who likes to raise money.
So like, it's for people who are like, regardless of their industry, like what advice would you give them about like looking for a co-founder?
Yeah, it's a great question. So one thing, what do you bring to the table? That's the most important thing.
Is that how you ask it to them? Hey, what do you bring?
No,
to
no, not you.
Oh,
what do I do? Like if I was looking for another co-founder, what does me, Adam Yee, bring to the table? Like as a skill set, right? Like I'm a technical guy, right? So I have that advantage, right? Because most technical guys generally have something unique that they can build, or at least the passion or the way they can find it is really important too. Like with Better Miko, I didn't have a unique background for this type of stuff. But I had the passion to figure it out. Right?
Nice.
I had the flexibility to figure that out. I think with Sobo, a little bit better. I have more technical expertise, and also a passion to figure it out too, because we've never done frozen dumplings, both of us. But at least we have like the expertise to do it. So first, you have to figure out like how do you sell yourself in a sense, like your skill set to someone. Like that matters a lot. Like, and then and then hopefully that fills in the gaps a little bit. You also need to figure out what do you not like to do.
Preach.
That's a valuable
That's something I've been
exercise.
learning.
Yep.
So I personally don't like to talk to investors. Like, I'm fortunate to have a lot of friends who are investors and who have invested in Sobo, and I'm very grateful for them. They've been guests on the podcast. They've been fan on the podcast.
Amazing.
Like these are not cold called investors, right?
Right.
These are friends I've known for years.
So yeah, the friends and family
Yeah.
round of investors is a little different to talk to, right?
Exactly. And the co-founders I've chosen are very good at raising money, whether it's in the past. Like Paul was a Humane Society VP who could raise a lot of money. Eric's done a business before and has proven the scale. So that's really important. The marketing I think is really important as well. Like, I know this is a hustler podcast. I don't feel like I'm a hustler in a sense where like I like to go like knock on people's doors and like do things, like give me money or buy my product, right? I'm not like that type of hustler, but I really enjoy. But some people are. Some people love to like just go up and like try their best and just sell, right? It's not my style. I like to consider it also kind of a slow burner in terms of like developing the relationships and benefiting one another on these types of things, which I think has proven pretty well in this venture. We just have a lot of discussion, a lot of talk. I'm here right now because I nurtured a relationship, right? So,
Yep.
Right.
right. So, I met 3 people in Sacramento for this one day because I've nurtured these relationships over years.
Right.
So I think that's my style of doing it, and that's probably not the best style for like starting a business.
I think it's the sustainable way, because it takes into account exactly what you're saying is a level of self-awareness, right? Because you would burn out way faster if you're showing up doing all the things you hate as a solopreneur, right?
That's true. That's very true. Yeah, it's a lot on you, right? And especially if you don't have the money, that's even more on you. And so basically, like, Eric and Paul both would go out there and just go, and I think that's Eric also has a lot of great connections, business connections, and also great, design connections, and just these nuances that, website design, right, or something like that. So just these nuances really help complement my skill set, which is the back end, more technical, making the product type of thing. So you just need these complementary things. Mm-hmm. But I do think the most important thing you have to do is like find out what's wrong with you. Pretty much, you have to find out what's wrong with you. I don't think you're wrong
though. That's so true. I think that's what I've been figuring out is like, I don't like doing this.
Yep.
And if the next 5 years, what am I going to do with my life? Whether it's working for another company or starting a company, what do I not want to do?
Exactly. Yeah. And then find someone who likes to do that. Like someone likes to do this. Like someone likes to do something, right? So,
right.
And I
shout out to all the bookkeepers out there.
No, seriously. Yeah. Walt Disney apparently, like his brother was the bookkeeper type, like founder, for instance, who really complemented Walt's kind of creative explosion of a skill set, right?
Yeah.
So, but I'm not Walt. Like Walt's someone who he's very creative and who would go and just talk to a lot of people and then get his ideas up to the ground. But his brother, I forgot, Roy Disney, I think. He was the bookkeeper. He's the guy who made sure the financials were good, who helped him build the business. But both of those together, like, really, really built Disney, essentially.
Yeah.
Amazing. Mm-hmm. But so you said earlier that you don't consider yourself a hustler. Is it
not in like the stereotypical sense, I feel.
So then so the question that we ask everybody is like, one, do you consider yourself a hustler, or what does it mean to be a hustler to you?
That's a great question. Wow. I have a famous question as well on my podcast. So what I consider as a hustler, I think I do care a lot about my work compared to the average person. And I think a lot of people have a hard time figuring out if they do care about that, right? Because there's always someone better than you who cares about their work more than you, but that's also kind of roundabouts the whole thing about comparing yourself to others. You just probably shouldn't,
right?
And I think if I were to look at the grand scheme of things, yeah, I am a hustler. Then that I do things because I want to see them into fruition. I think that's important. But I rely on a lot of people to help me get to where I am. And I don't
think that's a bad thing.
It's not a bad thing. I think more people should do it. I think a lot of the stereotypes with hustlers is that they just keep on doing it. They just grind, or they just when they advertise something, it just feels hollow or empty, or just buy my course.
Shout out to all calling out a whole generation of people.
I mean, right. and I think that's fine. I think that's great hustling. I think it's just not the type I like to do. Have I thought about doing that? Yeah, I have in the past. I just think I think it's a very young thing to do, and I think people should be able to do that. Like, and then now we're in the age where we can like make a course in like a week and sell it, right?
There's still software for it.
Yeah, right. There's software. There's a playbook. You can just literally join a course, copy their content, and just do it yourself. Like that's what a lot of people do. And I'm just saying, like that's the kind of hustler that I think is pretty stereotyped. So in that case, I'm not one of those ones, but I do think I care a lot about my job and I want to see it succeed, and therefore I will do anything to do that. So if that's the definition of hustler, then I like that definition.
Oh, huge. Big time. I'm a big fan of it because anyone that shows up with a cooler full of dumplings is about their shit. So that's unmatched hustle in my book.
Great. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, our campaign, we were discussing this. Like, we kind of wanted to launch a little bit bigger, but since we had so much inventory, we're like, well, why don't we do this text campaign where, and Eric's also a super good hustler too, like not the buy my course type, but like just this.
Oh damn, he's not one of the Lamborghini boys.
I know, with the private jet he rented for 5 minutes.
That's right. Yeah. That's right. Darn.
He's someone who will do the dirty work, right? And I think that's what you need. I know a lot of founders who don't do the dirty work, or who don't, they'll fly to whatever country and just talk and then not do anything else, right? Even though there's a business they need to run. I think, for our text campaign, we got all of our friends to order our dumplings. I saw high school friends of mine. I saw college friends of mine. It's really, really touching. Actually, friends I met like last month also bought it as well. It's just amazing to see how many people are supporting us. But yeah, when they pretty much text the number. Eric will personally text them back with like, there's a script and all that, but he will personally text them back and say like, okay, what dumplings do you want and all that stuff. And then we set up a time, and then we've got 100 orders that we are hand delivering. And when we kind of put this on a map, like we're going from San Jose to I think Oakland or the East Bay, or deep into the East Bay, to deliver dumplings like by hand. And saying thank you, right? Because we think that matters. We think that really does matter.
That.
Take notes.
Yeah,
if you're listening, take notes. Do the fucking unscalable. Do that real hands-on shit. I love it.
Y Combinator, which Eric's company Gainful was a part of, and Y Combinator. It's the gold standard of accelerators. Applied 3 times, didn't make it. But anyways, that's
moving on. Whatever.
Anyone from Y Combinator listening?
Shout out to Y Combinator.
It.
It's okay. I mean, they take a lot of your company. They take a big chunk of your company, and the content is okay. But one of the most important things that we kind of solidified was part of Y Combinator is do things that don't scale.
Right.
And I think I think a lot of people say to do that, but they don't really do that, or they don't know what that means. But I think doing things that don't scale.
Well, texting 100 people.
Yeah, I know, right? Yeah, and hand delivering them. We think that that's really important for what we want to make as a statement is that we're here, we want to know you, and we want to know, we love feedback, we love ideas, and we want to grow with you. You watch us grow, and if you're growing too, we'll help you out.
I love that.
Whether it's intentional or not, I think having the founder text 100 people, for not just for the customer, but for him and for you, it allows you to realize how tangible your impact of your brand is.
Yes.
Yeah.
It also gives you a lot of nuance to understand, how do they respond to you, and how are they communicating with you, and all that stuff too. Like if we found out like a lot of offices are buying our stuff, then is there something there, for instance, right? Like can we do office parties or something
Dumpling
like that?
parties.
Dumpling off, something like that, right?
Yeah.
So there's just a lot of things you can gather from doing kind of this stuff that doesn't scale. You see a lot of nuances. You see a lot of things that you can kind of, if you have the kind of the mindset for it, take what is nuanced and transform it into something that's really positive. I think a lot of companies do this actually. I don't know any for example. I think Airbnb is probably the best example of this. Just in their whole way of doing things and whole way of getting customer service, for instance, is really important. So a lot of people do it. I think if you put the lens on about like how companies get customer feedback and understand the nuances of it, you actually learn a lot about how companies operate.
Well, I think Etsy's an example. Like when they first started, they literally went to like craft fairs and then interviewed people and said, hey, what would it look like for you to like go online? What's stopping you from like joining a marketplace? But then I think when people look at Etsy, they don't realize like those humble beginnings and how not tactical, but how they had to they went to their community. Yes. They didn't ask their community to come to them. Like you're coming to your community. Thanks for coming to Sacramento real quick, making a pit stop here, and delivering dumplings.
Yes, definitely. And it's important to understand like this is the stage we're at right now, right?
Right.
Like, if we're a lot of people who join companies may not understand that stage at all, right? And so they may not do that strategy, and sometimes that can leave things a little bit hollow. There's a certain stage of doing this thing that doesn't scale. And I think like at this early stage, super early stage for us, like we're pre-seed, like we're fortunate to have investors. But for us, this is really important to understand.
Oh, fun. So can I ask, what's the difference? How did it feel to be a founder of like your previous company? And then how does it feel to be a founder now?
Yeah. At 25 in my previous company, I felt so insecure about myself.
25. Oh my gosh. I didn't even remember. I don't remember how old you are. Just like thinking about you said yes to starting a company with somebody at the age of 25.
Yeah.
And so go ahead. Insecurity.
I was just super insecure. I think imposter syndrome is always something that everyone talks about. I think it's a good thing to feel imposter syndrome because you're working ahead of your skill set, but it does take time to feel confident in your skills. I think that's really important to understand. So in this company, I feel much more confident in my skills, and I think that's really important to understand. Like doing this before is great, and understanding like failure happens, and the more you kind of get your face plummeted on the floor, the easier the next time is.
Yeah.
And fortunately, this project has gone really smoothly. Like me and Eric have been in this stage before. We have done this part before. So for us, it
doesn't feel uncomfortable.
Yeah, right now. But, maybe when we started selling retail, right, both of us don't have retail business. Like I did B2B, he did more D2C, like direct to consumer. And so it might be different. We're also dealing with frozen products, which both of us haven't really dealt with before. And we don't
Diving
know.
right in.
Yeah, we don't know how it's gonna work. But frozen's super hard. Dumplings are super hard. It does take a lot of capital and movement to really scale that. But I do think like we have the expertise to do that. I think reputationally, I feel like I have a little bit more clout in the industry now, which was helpful because of Better Meat Co. Doing that and succeeding onto that was really important too. I think just in general, being older, you just feel better about your life. I think teenagers are the most insecure, and then as you grow up,
you start to shed some of those.
You start to shed. You start to realize your experiences are your own, and then you start to feel just better about yourself in general.
Nice.
Yeah.
So what's next?
What's next? I'm gonna go all in on this for as long as I can. So. Who knows what will happen? I think the most important thing to do. I don't like 5-year plans. I don't like because anytime if I look at 5-year plans like from where I am now versus where I was before.
Yeah. Did it go according to plan?
No, definitely not. No. I mean, technically, my 5-year plan 5 years ago was stay at Better Meat Co. Right? Like technically, that should be the point of an entrepreneur venture, right? Like stay at a company for as long as you can.
Right.
Yeah.
Right? Like that's kind of what you should do, but most people don't do that. There's a lot of examples of people who don't do that, and I think if I stuck to a 5-year plan, I would have never moved to amazing cities, met amazing people, traveled around the world, and just in general, just enjoy life a little bit more. So what's next? I'm going to just try my best to sell these dumplings and see how it goes, and we'll see what happens.
Well, you got 2 lifetime customers sitting with you right now.
If you can't tell already, Cope is a huge fan of any
Sold
company that
it.
we interview. We'll
Sold
buy anything
it.
you sell.
Every time. Every time.
Yeah, and because I think we've built a relationship, I was like, yeah, I'll buy whatever. Yes,
Oh.
the answer is yes.
Yeah.
We call that a super fan.
Oh, I'm a super fan. Can I ask one last question?
Of course, yeah.
So you were describing like a hustler before it seems like those who sell courses and drive Lamborghinis, their goal is to make money. For me, it doesn't feel like that's what your goal is. What is your goal then?
I feel happy with life. Okay, so
is it to change the world? Is it make people eat dumplings? Is it to convince the meat eaters that plant-based is where it's at?
That's a great question. I will say it's okay to have selfish goals. Probably not great to say in a podcast, but it's fine.
No,
Yeah, please
no. Please speak your
all the
truth.
selfish
I think
Yes.
everyone has selfish goals. I think this is fine, and if you're careful to share with these or not, it's fine. I personally have a creative I want to express creative freedom. I want people to try things I make or hear or whatever, podcasting, products, food products. I'm looking to game design right now, but that's different. I just want to create things that people enjoy, and I want them to enjoy as much as possible. And I think that's kind of the when I think about like what I've done in my life, like the core ethos of like all of these projects was because I selfishly want to make something that people like.
Yeah.
You can dig into that as much as you want, but that's in general how I feel about it. So, and what does that take to make something that you like? It takes a lot of people. It takes a lot of partnerships. It takes a lot of things. So, when I think about just all of that, that's probably the main reason why I'm doing this is because I have the ability to create really cool products, really cool things using this company, and as I share with people and people like it, like I think it can make a statement. Like, do I want to be more sustainable? Yes, of course. I think, personally, I think the meat industry is very destructive. I think factory farming. There's a great book called Raw Deal by Chloe Sorbino. Just has a great history about the factory farming industry, which only happened about 50 years ago. I think it strains the system too much. Strains the system. I would like our products to loosen it up a little bit, and I think there's a lot of players who also want that as well. And we all have to work together to do this, and because our biggest goal is to replace our products with meat, or essentially factory farm meat. Like if it's regenerative stuff that people are talking about, yeah, that's fine. That's only like 1% of the market.
Right.
Plant-based is right 1 or 2% of the market. So we still have a long way to go when it comes to replacing or reducing factory farm meat. So that's kind of our holistic goal for Sobo, and I do have a decent passion about it, but if I can do it through a creative way, then I am so down for that.
Love that.
Amazing. Awesome.
I love it. I got nothing else. There's nothing else.
If anything you're doing a podcast for, could you please tell the people where to find you, what you want them to buy, who you are one more time?
Yeah, I'm really active on LinkedIn, so just search up Adam Yee. I rebranded myself. I used to be a food scientist, or I used to be a traveling food scientist. Now I'm a dumpling scientist.
Oh, a dumpling
scientist, right? So that's the best way you can kind of recognize me is on LinkedIn. you can follow us at Sobo Foods, or we just have like Sobo Foods in general, just everywhere in any
I
social
heard
media
TikTok
platform.
is hot.
Yeah, we just hired a social media team, so we're gonna figure out like how we're gonna do TikTok, and
Nice.
so I think it's at Sobo Foods as well. And yeah, you're gonna see a lot of us. Again, we just started, but it's really exciting to start. We have a great start so far.
Awesome. So sobofoods.com, Adam Yee on LinkedIn, the dumpling scientist. Thank you so much, Adam, for being here and giving us your
you.
time.
Yes.
And yeah.
Thank you for having me.